What's this job at Henley like in comparison? Does it just fit comfortably in?
No, it's the best.
I see. I wasn't fishing for that. But
you get the best view commentating at Henley. There is nowhere where you are as close to the action as you are in the Henley commentary box. And you've basically got crews, destroyed after that race, and they're right beside you. You just look out the window.
I'm Matt Pinsent, and welcome back to Off the Water. For the first time in ages, we're actually outside. We're face to face, and I'm face to face with Martin Cross, who probably in this summer of 2024 is the most tapped in rowing commentator. Your weekends must be absolutely mental in the run up to the regatta. We can see the finishing touches being applied to the regatta side behind us. You must be a busy man.
Completely busy, and my wife Chris, she has let me do these things, but I'm not sure how many passes out in the future I would have lost because of this year.
The inferno of the brownie points is ongoing. Give us your sort of perspective about what's coming up. Obviously, the big headlines around the Paris Olympics. I suppose from a British parochial point of view, we want to see return to form. We want to see a return to the middle of the podium, which was obviously missed in Tokyo.
Yeah, and there are chances, I think, potentially for 4 or 5 gold medals. I think we'll probably end up with 2.
Which would be great. You're wincing.
Well, the men's 8s are an interesting one, undefeatable, except the USA beat them in Lucerne in the heat, and then the USA nearly beat them again in the final of Lucerne. Now, they had an amazing last quarter. I can't imagine that the British 8 was anything but tired for that, because I can't really see an 8 like the USA taking a length out of the British in the last 500. And they, they said they'd been in a big training block for Lucerne, but everyone always says that. You used to say that. I remember you used to say, nobody remembers what happens at Lucerne. They will only remember... Well, yeah. They will only...
Very self-serving.
Yeah. They will only remember the Olympics. So I think that 8 is favourite. I think the British women's quad are favourites. The Dutch just don't seem to have had the pace that they did last year. And I think the British women's quad, with Lola Anderson particularly, having a relatively injury-free summer.
You tease out Lola Anderson from that crew. I mean, she's sort of pivotal. And for someone to have progressed into that team that at the speed and quality that she has is really impressive.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. She's an extremely solid athlete. I think, was it last year she won the singles trial? So we know she's fast in that, but she really sets it up for Georgie in the stroke seat of that women's quad. And then really it allows the athletes behind her to operate really effectively. And I think that World Championship gold last year was in, no small part due to Lola's technical solidity, which allowed them to keep ahead of the Dutch. And I think it will take them to, gold this year probably.
Women's lightweight double, they must be favourite. They haven't been beaten throughout in the right combination when they're fully fit. Have you got any question mark that they should be favourite for the event?
No, they are strong favourites. The only question mark I have. So Josie Verdonschot, the American coach, he was like, my US lightweight women's double, they're not right for Lucerne, where they obviously raced the British. And I think, is it Setcher and Reckford? They will come good, and there'll be more of a challenge. So I think let's see how fast they are. The big question mark for me is the Romanians. They were world champions in 2017 and 2018. Jana van Groningen has come back into the team to team up with her partner. And they were really impressive at the Europeans. They obviously beat the British double, who had a substitute on board at that time. So Imogen Grant lost to them. And I think they will be a threat. So I think there is a question mark. They're more of a question mark for any of the races they've had this season.
And then of the other boats, the British fleet, I guess. Men's 4 must be...
So I think the men's 4 is an interesting one. I know Freddie Davison had a mare of a winter and, you know, he wasn't in the boat a lot. Did well to get back for Varese and that World Cup there. But to me, that event has now moved on from where the British were. I think the Americans and New Zealand 4s have been... they've had a proper training programme this year. Last year they didn't have that. So that American forward, Liam Corrigan in, is just like the business. I think it's really, really solid, really smooth. I think that event has stepped up. The Kiwis are obviously going quicker than last year with the 2 Olympic gold medalists in that boat from Tokyo and ahead of the British. So I don't really see a reason why the British were relatively that far behind. I think their percentage time relative to world's best was like 94%, and the winners were like at 97% or something like that. It feels like a gap, and I don't really understand that why. So I'm not expecting that 4 to win a gold medal.
And then the sort of big moving, the tectonic plates of world rowing. Britain, we hope, coming back to a powerhouse again. America, we've talked a lot about the boats that they've got coming, the men's 8, the men's 4, the women's lightweight double, all great contenders again. The Netherlands are strong, you know, as in Tokyo. I'm asking, turning that into a question.
Enough, yes, the Netherlands were good in Tokyo, but I think they think they're even better now because, you know, they had Josie Verdonschot, say, with the women, and he was very pleased and proud, you know, that they got medals in the women's lightweight double and the women's double. The women's 4 got a silver behind the Australians. But now the Dutch think, well, we're better. They've got this, you know, really different training program, the 80-20 program of Ilko Meerhorst, their technical directors. So, you know, you've got this phenomenal rise, I think, of the women's pair, Cleveling and Meester, who are beating, well, not the Olympic pairs champions from Australia, but the Olympic 4s champions in the pair. Very strong. And then, you know, how many sculling gold medals did the Netherlands win in Lucerne? They took the single, Van Dorp, they took the double, and Tweller and Breuning, and the quad, of course, which is incredible. And I don't make Simon Van Dorp favourite for the Olympics, but he could win. But nevertheless, the double and the quad are really, really strong favourites. So the Netherlands are, I think they might even be number 1 nation at the Olympics.
And in amongst all those other British boats, the men's pair, I mean, they have always said they are capable of winning a big race. And even when they haven't won a big race, they come in off the water and say, we should have won that. And for the first time this season, it looks like they are now there. They're there in the shape of their lives.
Yeah, everything looks great for the men's pair. I think they've got a new coach working with them, Christian Felkel, who works with the 4, and I think they're really happy with that combination.
No dramas, no fuss. George and Wyn Griffith win the silver goblets and nickels, and they celebrate.
So I think that looks good. I think you can see the impact on the water. To my money, though, we haven't seen the best of the world champions, the Swiss. And I think Ian Wright trains them. They've raced all through the season. They're going to race at the 3rd World Cup in Poznan. And what they haven't showed this year is that killer 3rd quarter that they showed at the World Championships, which Ollie and Tom didn't have an answer to. So I expect them to be significantly different racers at the Olympics to what they were in Lucerne or the other World Cups where Ollie and Tom have beaten them. So to me, there are the question marks for the British. I do think the British are favourites to take gold, and what a fairy story after having, you know, they win the bronze in 2022, the silver last year, and maybe this year at the World Championships. They've never really delivered their best at World Championships or Olympic Games, and could this be the year? And for the sake of them and their friendship, I hope it is.
Ollie Zeidler from Frankfurt Gesellschaft crosses the line. 3rd diamonds, 3 more to go, Ollie.
Someone or a nation that we know is not going to be is Germany, and this gives us a chance. The sort of shining light in German rowing at the moment, Oliver Zeidler, he feels like last man standing amongst the ruins almost. I mean, it's sort of extraordinary, this, and doesn't seem a fleeting dip. This feels like a crisis in German rowing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a crisis. They brought Sabine Schager in to steer that men's 8, the Deutschland actor, which doesn't seem to have been that effective. They had a promising European Championships where I thought they had a better lane than the British. They had the far side and the British were in the middle. They were close to them, but essentially their performance at Lucerne was terrible. They were like off the pace after 750. They were kind of clear water down on the next crew. So they've changed their boat. They brought the lad in who was at Cal in their IRA boat last year from the 4. They've kicked out Hannes Ocek, the Olympic silver medal stroke.
Ending his career, presumably.
Yeah, it all smacks of potentially rearranging the deck chairs. I think the issue with the German rowing is they don't have enough athletes that can go sub 550 on a 2K, and low 540s. To my mind, Ollie is the only person, I don't know the doubles scores actually, who are doing a decent job this year, but I don't think they have, for whatever reason, those 2K scores. And, I've talked to guys in the German A who say, we've lost people like Jakob Schneider, the big 5 man from the 8 in the Tokyo run up to Tokyo. We've lost Richard Schmidt, who got the gold in London. These are really strong guys, and there's nobody to replace that level of power in the 8.
And Zeidler coming to Henley and then on to Paris. I mean, I think there are a handful of particularly single scullers in the entry list who are doing something like that, but he's the big star name. Is that a combination that worries you, coming and racing here and then so soon being on duty in Paris?
I think that's a great question, and I think a lot of people are looking at it and saying, what are you doing? Now, he knows Henley. I think he likes the practice in the water. It's a different kind of, swelling.
He never
water.
looks altogether comfortable.
No, but I think he likes that practice. I wonder whether Ollie wants to get his name as the most prolific Diamond Sculls winner ever. Like, is it 6 that Marhays got, and is it Stuart Mackenzie's got 6 as well? Yeah. I think Ollie could, maybe he fancies that. I said that to him and he just smiled at me and kind of, yeah. But he thinks that the run-in he got last year to the World Championships from doing Henley, now it's a bigger gap last year. Obviously, this year's a smaller gap. But he thinks the run-in worked really well for him. He likes the fact he's doing that. He is a one-man band. Like, you got German rowing here, and then Ollie Zeidler just down south in Munich, and he likes doing different stuff. He's coming over this year with his dad. Normally it's his grandfather who coaches him, Faber, but his dad's coming over, Heino. So he feels that's a great routine. But I have to say, watching Ollie in Lucerne, that was the race of the regatta, the men's singles. Ollie was, I think, at like 350, 400 metres, he was like still at 46. It's like, bonkers. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then, of course, he blew up at the end.
Surprisingly, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then as you look down the sort of huge number of trophies that Henley offer, what jumps out to you as, I'm really excited about watching that competition unfold? Because there's something very special about Henley drawing people, and this isn't necessarily, it can be often the top level crews, the best practitioners in the world. Some of the best stories actually are in the club and the junior and the intermediate events lower down.
Yeah, I'm really excited about schoolboy and schoolgirl events. I think we're going to get a number of interesting entries from Australia and New Zealand. I think we might have a very strong Kiwi crew coming over for the Princess Elizabeth, the schoolboy 8s. Really excited to see that. The rumour coming out from Bobby Thatcher, and maybe they haven't won national schools by as much as we thought they might, but the St Paul's 8 with this massive guy out in is it the 5 seat or the 6 seat, who all the US colleges are desperate to get their hands on. Really excited to see them race. To me, the Grand this year is like, wow, this is going to be amazing. That Oxford Brooks 8, that beat the Dutch national team on the Bosbach.
The smooth man in the stroke, the rhythm guy, the power guy. Tom Ford takes them across the line. Harry Brightmore raises his arms. It's an emphatic victory for the British in the final of Henley's premier event, the Grand.
Admittedly, the Dutch had, 250k of training in their legs since Lucerne, but to see them, it's really interesting to see who Leander come out with in their top 8, whether they put Dowie de Graaf and Dan Graham, who's probably their top pair, in that 8. But I think the Grand has got a real sort of...
needle.
Yeah, zing of excitement.
Australia will win the Grand Challenge Cup for the 4th time in that nation's history. Brilliant race. What a fantastic contest. That's what rowing's about.
And then even lower down in an event like the ladies, I think with US colleges, so excited that Princeton, who looked to be like one of the top colleges, early on in the dual racing, they beat Harvard and didn't quite manage to sort of hit it at the IRA finals. But, such a strong crew. So I'm really excited to see them. Brown, who won the Eastern Sprints, but then blew out in the semi-final of it was a semi-final at death. And they didn't get out quick enough. They did in the small final, but Brown, I think, will be really competitive.
Point to prove.
I'm very excited about the Huskies coming over, who kind of won everything, and I assume they're coming over to Henley. I mean, if they don't come over this year with all that they've won, and then it's going to give us a great chance to see a number of development crews in both men's and women's events, and they race at such a high standard this year.
You commentate now, basically all around the world. At national regattas, at international regattas for world rowing, of course. IRAs is now newly on your diary. Lovely to see you doing your stuff there. What's this job at Henley like in comparison? Does it just fit comfortably in?
No, it's the best.
You see, I wasn't fishing for that. But
you get the best view commentating at Henley. There is nowhere where you are as close to the action as you are in the Henley commentary box. And you've basically got crews, destroyed after that race, and they're right beside you. You just look out the window. Lucerne, you're up in a little box. Sometimes Varese, you're back in the grandstands. Szeged, you were right at the top of the grandstands. You're not as close to the action as you are at Henley. And the number of people you get to work with, because we got quite a big rota of, not just lead commentators, but, pundits that come along. That's phenomenal.
And there have been races in the past where I've as umpire, you're having a chat with the crew afterwards because they're unhappy about something, and then I come in and you've got a better grip of the thing than because you can hear exactly what they're saying more than even the umpire can. Yeah. And so those seats are they are remarkable.
They are fantastic.
It is so exciting.
I can't wait.
None of us can. We are really looking forward to Henley Royal Regatta. Don't forget that you can watch every single race of Henley 2024 live on our YouTube channel as ever. And Martin will be commentating.